Come on in, guys. Are you ready to get to this week's final challenge? We finally made it to the end of your blended learning course, and now we're kind of all going to put it together. For this week, you'll really be focusing on two things: a final reflection, and we're doing that before the final challenge because it might help to put in perspective some of the things that you've done and worked on throughout this course. So the first thing you're going to do is just go ahead and do a final reflection, which is in the form of a discussion, and feel free to comment on the other participants. I actually encourage you to, because that way you might get some ideas or reminders of some of the things that you learned and will be helpful to put into your final activity. And in your final challenge, you should have been focusing: how can you take what you're already doing in your classroom and transfer it into a digital format in Schoology while maintaining some of that interaction, some of that engagement, some of the differentiation, all the things that we would tend to do within our own classroom walls. And so for this challenge, you are going to be redesigning either an entire lesson or an entire unit. It's completely up to you which is more applicable to you. And you're going to put it into a digital format that lives inside Schoology. So essentially think of, you're creating a folder, and what kind of type of content are you going to put into this folder for your lesson or unit. Consider the pieces that you really want to include. How are you going to get information to students, whether it is lecture, notes, that kind of thing. We talked about some flipping of some videos, which would be a good way to put things in here. How are students going to navigate through this? If it's completely digital, would completion rules make sense in this instance? How are you going to assess for mastery? Are you going to attach learning targets and standards to certain things? Are you going to give test or quizzes with feedback function? Or is there some other way that students are going to be doing some assessment? And then really think about, what other material can you embed into Schoology to enhance their learning experience. Everything does not have to be Schoology related materials. So for instance, way back in the first unit, or one of the first units on organization design, I had embedded or put in a Padlet wall. That's a way for kids to collaborate and discuss ideas and concepts, but that is not a tool that's created by Schoology. It's a tool that's embedded in there. So what are some other tools that you might be able to embed in your course for student use? Keep in mind the different units that we talked about and the different components of each as you're creating this or designing this final thing. A portfolio does not have to be a part of it, because a portfolio is essentially a little bit of a separate thing within Schoology, but it certainly could be a component of this unit or this lesson. And really keep in mind student voice and choice. You'll see that a lot in there, but how can you let students maybe have some choice in the way that they're showing mastery or the way that they're being assessed, and so on and so forth. So you're going to create this, you're going to answer some questions, and you're going to participate in the discussion. And please, with this one, give some encouragement to other people, ask clarifying questions, reflective questions, really get people to think about this unit or lesson they've designed, because it could potentially be something that you use in the fall when your students come into your course. So you want to make it the best it can be. And if you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, let's get to this week's final challenge.